rise in mind, body, or spirit.
Gather here in the mystery of the hour. Gather here in the struggle. Gather here in the struggle of the power. Spirit, draw near. Gather here in the singing of the power. Gather here in the songs of ocean. Gather here in the singing of the power. Spirit, draw near. Gather here in the mystery of the hour. Gather here in the struggle of the power. Spirit, draw near. Spirit, draw near.
With practice makes perfect. We'll get there. That's the first time we've done that. Good morning. Wow, this stool is really high. Now I feel like my husband, who's 6'8". About 4 inches, yeah. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Fullerton, California, an inclusive community dedicated to building a better world, whoever you are, however you identify, whoever you love. We want to let you know that you are in a safe and sacred space. And if there's any way that we can make this place safer, we want to hear from you. You can email me, you can come up to me, let me know how we can make this space more welcoming. That is our goal. My name is Reverend Robert Blair. My pronouns are he, him, and we are so glad that you are with us on this rainy Sunday. We need the rain, and we are thankful for that. UUCF acknowledges that this land is situated in the original ancestral homelands of the Ahachiman, the K'iche', and the Tongva peoples. May we have the humility and courage to help restore what has been broken and the wisdom to live into a new solidarity with indigenous communities and the earth. We have a lot of things going on right now. We always have a lot of things going on. If you are new here and you want to get involved in making this world a better place and you don't know how to begin, you've come to the right place. Pat Mannion's 6-week meditation workshop scheduled to start today. It has been postponed, but Pat will be here to hold his regular meditation class at 1 o'clock in the choir room. He's going to reschedule that program, so just keep an ear to us and we'll let you know when that will happen. Next Sunday is our immigration volunteer training event. Of course, we had our panel discussion. Debbie Langenbacher put that together and did just an amazing job. Now we're going to get you trained, because even though the war is taking up a lot of space when it comes to headlines, ICE is still out there doing what it is doing, and we are supporting our immigrant population in the best way that we know how here in Orange County. So if you want to get involved, not just on the front lines, this will enable you to find your place to help with our immigrant population and support them. Okay, so Social Action will be meeting today, and one way we know of helping, to piggyback on what Debbie just said, is to provide groceries for our adopted family. You can speak to Debbie to sign up to shop, to donate, or deliver for this ongoing project, or attend today's Social Action Committee meeting following the service. It'll be in the Chapman Lounge around 1 o'clock. So join Debbie if you would like to get involved. And if you're new here and want to just start today, there's Debbie right there. And you can speak with her or speak to me about that. Now, Ramon Gallegos is here filling in for Rebecca to give us an update on the pledge drive. Good to see you, Ramon. Thank you for filling in.
Good morning. I'm Ramon Gallegos, filling in for Becky, as the Reverend said. First off, I'd like to give some thanks to everyone who's donated since the pledge drive had kicked off. We're now at more than $41,000 in pledges, which puts us at about 18% of our goal. It's great to see some progress. If you crunch numbers all day like I do, though, you might note that we are 40% of the way through the month. So we're going to just assume that everyone's waiting until after tax day, and we'll see another big surge in pledges soon, especially within person cottage meetings beginning today. Thanks again to those who signed up for the meetings. The stewardship team is looking forward to connecting with you for a more in-depth discussion of how to grow our congregation and ensure its strong future. All cottage meeting sessions are now full, so if you signed up but haven't received confirmation, please contact Kathy Frickert right away. If a cottage meeting is not in your plans for the month, good news is you can still pick up a pledge packet from either Kathy or Leslie Mahaffey after the service. If you prefer to go digital, you can reach UUCF's donation page at uufullerton.org/pledge. It's also a good time to share that our fellowship dinner, where we celebrate the wild success we're going to achieve with this stewardship drive, will be Saturday, May 2nd in the fellowship hall. More details will follow, so save the date. Finally, I want to thank our upcoming speaker, Amy Neeram, who has a testimonial about why her family has decided to pledge to UUCF. I think it takes a lot of courage as a newer member to get up here and share, so let's give Amy a warm welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramon. And now Amy Neeram will give her testimonial on why it is important to give back to UUCF.
Oh, I feel particularly tall today with the little step up here.
Join me.
Thank you to the Pledge Committee for all their hard work and for asking me to speak to you today. UUCF has become very important to me, and so I'm honored to tell you a little bit about our story and why we give. A little more than a year ago, I brought my family to UUCF for the first time. It was a big decision for us to come through those doors. You see, I have never felt at home in a faith-based community before. I always felt like I had to believe in ways that other communities expected me to, and that therefore I didn't belong. I had actually looked at the UUCF website several times over the years, but had always convinced myself that even here we wouldn't fit in. However, on January 19th of 2025, a few things had happened that tipped me over the edge. If you're familiar with the dates of how things happen in the US political system, you'll know that January 19th is the day before the inauguration. And so I was having big feelings. And then also the Eaton fire was still raging just a few miles from where I had grown up. The previous weekend, I had spent time up in the San Gabriel Valley, volunteering with lots of other people from the community where I had grown up, and supporting those that were impacted by the fire. I helped them manage donated items and make kits for those who needed them. The event had taken place at a church. And though I felt glad that there were so many caring people out there in the world, I was a little bit sad for myself that I wasn't engaging in a community on a regular basis, and I found inspired to find like-minded people closer here to where we live. I remembered my previous searches for community and decided to look up UUCF again. I found a recording from the previous week's service on Facebook, and I watched it twice. Once by myself, and then again with Justin and the boys. I explained to them how I was feeling, and we made a plan to visit. That Sunday, we joined the service, and I cried just about the whole time, for reasons I had difficulty discerning back then. But looking back at it now, I think that I was overwhelmed by the feeling that was brought out by the music and by the words that I was hearing of welcome spoken from up here. The next week, I went with the boys to religious education, and I got to see the wonderful job done by Joy with the younger children. Shout out, Joy. And 2 weeks later, I convinced Justin to crash his first men's group, which has proved to be a great outlet for him. The rest of the year was filled with firsts too: going to social action committee, joining a community circle, seeing a canned food drive for Easter, that was new, participating in our first crop walk, which, by the way, I'm helping put together the team this year, so if you're out there and want to walk with us, I hope that you come talk to me. And by the time that our first pledge drive came along, I was convinced that we had found the place where we belonged. So we chose to make a pledge in order to support the work of the congregation. The reason we give is simple. I want this place that has given me a sense of peace to keep existing. It is important to me and my family, and I believe it's up to each of us to dedicate our time, treasure, and talent to this place to keep it alive and thriving. I want to continue to have a place where my kids are free to be themselves, to literally crab walk out that door on the way to religious education after the time for all ages, and where we will all continue to make connections and memories. I hope you will do what you can and join us in pledging as well.
Thank you, Amy, and the Niram family. Our caring listener this week is Kyra Keener. She's in the back. You can speak with Kyra after the service if you have just the need to speak to someone, to talk to them about anything that you're going through, and know that it is confidential. We'll be sharing joys and sorrows a little bit later in the service. If you are on Facebook Live or on Zoom, we're so glad that you're with us on this rainy Sunday. If you can get those into us as soon as possible so that we can lift you up. If you are here in the sanctuary, there are some pink pieces of paper in the back so that you can fill those out. We can light a candle for you on anything that you're going through. And if you don't want to put your name on that, that's fine too. We can read it anonymously and light a candle for you. Now, 1 to 2 minutes to say hello to your neighbors. If you are standing, continue to stand. All others, please rise in mind, body, or spirit as we begin our worship service with all creatures of the earth and sky.
All creatures of the earth and sky, come into life and touch the high. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Alternate sun and golden beams, shining moon and silver stream. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Swift rushing wind and wild and strong, white clouds that sail in heaven's long. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Fair rising moons and rising joys, and singing the voice. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Cool flowing waters, pure and clear, make music of our life to hear. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Yes, every flame's soul is light, and righteousness and warm and bright. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
I now invite Jocelyn to light the chalice. We light this flame for what is not yet known, for the questions that stretch us, the hopes that whisper, and the courage that flickers on those uncertain days. We kindle this flame for beginnings that are only just becoming. Please join me in saying our unison affirmation on the screen. This flame affirms the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. Love is the doctrine that we share. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, thus do we covenant with one another.
It is our custom to provide donations of non-perishable food and personal care items for Pathways of Hope, a local food bank. Please check the dates on your items as we are unable to donate any items with expired dates. As the children come forward, they are asked to collect the donations placed at the end of the rows. And now the children are invited to come forward for the time for all ages.
From what? No, no. I give from you, I receive to you. I give. Together we share, and on this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and on this
impressive.
Very talented. Good morning, everyone. Excuse me, Mr. Crab. My name is Joy, and I am one of the RE teachers here. Can you sit with me now? Thank you. And first, I want to say thank you to everyone who donated cans for our Easter eggless can hunt. The kids went through and found them like a swarm of locusts. It lasted less than 5 minutes. However, they had a lot of fun, and they worked together, and then they have the satisfaction of knowing that all those got to be donated to people who can use them and enjoy them and have some good food in the coming weeks. So they had a lot of fun, so thank you. And this month, in April and springtime, we're talking about the theme of embracing possibility. And today we're talking about specifically the possibilities of how we can build a better world. Now that sounds like a big job. And as the astronauts who just came back to Earth reminded us, when they're looking at us from space, what do they see, Andrew? Can they see us waving at them?
No.
We're just specks, smaller than specks from up in space, on this big blue-green planet. So it's like, how can we just build a better world? That's such a huge job. I mean, not even superheroes work alone, right? That's why we have all those Avenger movies. Like, they can't even solve the problems of the fake world that they live in. But there is a way that we can all be builders. And it doesn't matter who we are, even if you're thinking, I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm too small, I don't have enough time, I'm too tired, I don't have enough money. We can all make a contribution by just doing the things that come naturally to us. Do you feel like you guys have any skills or talents that you're really good at? Andrew said crab walking. Absolutely. You're very athletic, but you're also very funny and you make us smile, which automatically makes my day better, which I think makes the world better when you could bring smiles to people's faces. What about you, Rose? Yes, you are a wonderful artist. You can draw and you can write, and those things, I know you love giving things to your friends, and I know like you love giving gifts, and you talk about how you just want to make your friends smile and happy, and I think that's an amazing way to make the world better. And even though we're just individuals, and maybe like we see people around us, even at church or school or wherever at work, we think, man, they're contributing like 10 blocks to the tower. Or maybe they're contributing 5 blocks, and maybe we think, I can only contribute 1 block. If we're thinking like this is building the better world, I can only contribute 1 block. Maybe I just don't know. I'm not that important. I'm not that talented. But guess what? Every block makes a difference. Even if we remove 1 block from this, what's going to happen? It'll fall over. If I take 1 block off, the smallest block, it falls apart. It falls apart, just 1 block. And so that shows that it doesn't matter who we are, it doesn't matter our age. Will you help me clean them up? It doesn't matter. I asked them in advance, so they knew this was coming. They're helping make my world better. It doesn't matter if we feel like we have so little to contribute, because we all do contribute with our own talents and resources. We don't have to do something that feels unnatural to us. We can just contribute by being ourselves, by being kind and helpful, even in the smallest ways. And sometimes we don't even know how we can help improve and build up others' worlds. We might never know. But it's the fact that we keep doing it because we all believe in the possibility that the world is capable of being better and being improved, and clinging to that hope. So while you guys continue with your service, we're going to learn more about how our kids and other kids in the world, have intentionally chosen to make their worlds a better place. So have a good Sunday. Will you hold that for us?
Go in wisdom, go with wonder, go to meet a brand new day. Learn to see the light within you as we send you on your way. Go in wisdom, go with wonder, go to meet a brand new day. Learn to see the light within you as we send you on your way.
It is now time for our joys and sorrows. One of the joys is knowing a lot of our youth are in OWL right now. So our youth and Time for All Ages is a little small right now because they are learning some valuable lessons in the other building. And it is a joy to be able to offer our whole lives at this location at UUCF. That is a big joy. We begin by lighting a candle for all our concerns for the larger world, our wish for peace and justice, our hopes for the children who will inherit this planet. May this candle represent all the wishes and calls to action that are more than we can articulate in this space. As you know, as Reverend, I've been bringing a lot of meditations during this time because we are in a time of temptation to go into hopelessness and apathy. And so again, this morning, in this moment of deep unrest, we turn our hearts toward the war. We hold in our care the people of Iran and Lebanon, families waking to uncertainty, children carrying fear they did not choose, neighbors longing simply to live, to love, to be safe. We hold as well the people of the United States and Israel who are wondering what is next and hoping for compassion from leaders. All who live under the shadow of violence and all who are asked to carry the weight of decisions they did not make. And turning to our nation with its power and its influence and its responsibility. This week, Pope Leo spoke of what he called a delusion of omnipotence, a belief that power alone can control outcomes, that strength is proven through domination, that violence can secure peace. May we be humble enough to reject that illusion. May we remember that no nation, no leader, no people is beyond consequence, and no people is beyond compassion. Whenever land, it is ordinary people who suffer first and the longest. So let us be a people who refuse easy answers, a people who resist hatred, even when we feel afraid or apathetic, a people who seek not victory over one another, but future with one another. May wisdom and divine love guide leaders toward restraint and sobriety. May courage lead them to the table of dialogue, and may we in our own lives, in this community, choose the harder path, the path of dignity, of humility, love, and peace. A joy from Linda Duarte Wolf. I am excited to go to the Pacific Southwest General Assembly in Rancho Palos Verdes, April 24th through the 26th. We can think of no one to represent us better, Linda. Thank you for your dedication. A joy from Natalie Cruz. I am in a long period of growth and enjoying my strength, my new strength. At times I feel alone in my struggles, but I know that is typical for most people. I am grateful to be in this community that receives me as I am. And a joy from Mary. We've got 3 joys this week. Isn't that wonderful? Mary Botts. Last night's game night was so much fun. We played all kinds of games and ate all kinds of food. There's some left over and available after the service. If you are new here, we love to feed you, and so enjoy that. Thank you, Mary. And now we light one more candle for all of the joys, the concerns, and sorrows that remain unexpressed but are still held close to our hearts. And now please join me in saying the affirmation. We can bring that up on the screen. We join you in celebrating your joys. May you feel our love and compassion for your sorrows and concerns, for all that is spoken and unspoken. May the caring of our beloved community sustain us all. Please rise in mind, body, or spirit for our next song.
May what we choose is what we are, and what we love and yet shall be. The Lord afar will the wind make us free. Stars above earth, high and feast and voiceless our praises come with us to floor, till sun shall rise and set no more. Ours above the times and things of loneliness of earth, all arts, all ages, and all songs, one life, one beauty on this earth.
You may be seated.
Let us move into the spirit of meditation, reflection, and prayer. You may close your eyes, take a deep breath, whatever helps you find your center. Spirit of life, ever adapting and renewing. We come together this morning with yearnings that do not match. We yearn for stability, for even one moment of feeling like we know what's going on, for the ability to predict and prepare for what is coming next. Yet, we also yearn for change. We ache for a world that turns aside from racism, violence, dehumanization, and disregard for suffering. Source of wonder, move us to express and live in gratitude for the beauty of this world, the loving people in our lives, and this day of possibility. Let us now share a minute of silence. Thank you. Under Rome, Christianity transitioned from a persecuted little faith into a force powerful enough to persecute others. Once the empire got their hands on Jesus' movement, they enacted huge changes in its theology, narrative, organization, and relationships with political power. Gone was a simple, direct message of love from the homelessness Jewish faith healer. In its place sprung up new hierarchies, ecclesiastic institutions, and endless dogma and doctrines. More importantly, the merger of Christianity with imperial power led to it becoming a tool for political control with countless spiritual teachings twisted for authoritarian purposes. Emperor Theodosius issued a series of decrees that enforced Christian rule and suppressed pagan practices. As religion merged with empire, pagan temples were destroyed, pagans were executed for heresy, and marginalized pagans faced persecution for not conforming to the new normal. Jesus' movement was now officially being used to justify violence, oppression, and authoritarian control. Jesus asserts that his true followers are the people and societies who care for the poor, the sick, the marginalized, the immigrants, the incarcerated. And he tells you who his fake followers are, the ones who are openly religious but indifferent to the poor, the sick, the marginalized, the immigrants, and the incarcerated, the lowest of the low. How we treat them is how we treat him.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Those readings come from the book Separation of Church and Hate by John Fugelsang. I want to begin with a confession. Well, that sounds very Catholic, doesn't it? But this doesn't. The confession is I'm a gay minister. Which means that depending on who you ask, I am either a threat to civilization or here to primarily improve the sanctuary's color palette. So far, civilization is still standing, and the color scheme of our setup is really quite good. Humor helps, especially when your existence has occasionally been treated as a theological debate topic. And that's part of why I was drawn to the work of John Fugelsang and his book, The Separation of Church and Hate, which I know some of you have been reading. Little background, Fugelsang is a comedian, he has a podcast, he's a political commentator. If you're a fan of Stephanie Miller, who was on the radio on KBC and been all over Los Angeles airwaves, she's got a show that he's on as a political commentator and a cultural critic. But he's also something else that matters for this conversation. He is the child of two people of really deep faith, okay? His mother was a former nun. His father was a Franciscan brother. And their story is really cool. Like, he dropped out, well, first he was sending her letters for like 10 years. He dropped out, she dropped out, and then they got together. But he grew up in a household where the language of the Gospels wasn't theoretical. It was lived, it was practiced, it was part of daily life, which means when he asked hard questions about how Christianity is being used in public life, he's not speaking from the outside, he's speaking from a place he knows, a tradition that he knows intimately. He's asking a really important question, especially right now, and this week, and today, because of what is happening in Budapest. We'll get to that. What happens when the teachings of Jesus, rooted in humility, compassion, and justice, get replaced by a version that seeks power, control, and dominance? And that question matters deeply for all of us. Whether you are a Christian, a Jew, atheist, agnostic, Buddhist, pagan, Wiccan, this is affecting us all. And Fugelsang saying, it doesn't matter what you believe, it matters because the language is being twisted and it affects all of us. Because this is not about attacking religion. It's about asking what happens when religion is fused with power. And if you are a student of history, this is nothing new. And it is not just in Christianity. If we look historically from Fugelsang's perspective and from my perspective as a student and seminarian in my studies, Jesus portrayed in the gospel, whether we take those texts literally, metaphorically, or as literature shaped by communities, a few themes are really unmistakable. Jesus warned about public religiosity performed for applause. He criticized religious authorities who burdened others while protecting themselves. He spoke constantly about wealth, about how hard it is for the rich to enter the kingdom of God, or as I like to call it, the kingdom. I think that's more appropriate. Kingdom of us together. Take out the patriarchy in it. He overturned tables in the temple over exploitation, not over radical inclusion. And Fugelsang's argument is simple. If modern Christian nationalism were graded on how closely it follows the essence of the Gospels, it would get a failing grade. An F across the board. It is antithetical. Because Christian nationalism is not primarily about the Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the poor in spirit. You remember that? Some of you. It is about domination, about declaring the United States a Christian nation and shaping law accordingly. Make no mistake, the war is in the headlines, but there are a lot of laws, especially against the LGBTQ plus community, that are going through states right now that are taking away the rights, especially of our trans siblings. This is by design. Here's where history complicates their narrative, because what we are experiencing today didn't simply emerge from theology. It was organized, it was strategized, and it was in many ways manufactured. Let me give you some history about when this began in our chapter. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, a political realignment began to take shape. You're old enough to be part of that generation. You may remember leaders like Jerry Falwell and former President Ronald Reagan helping forge a powerful alliance between conservative Christianity and the Republican Party. Now, here's the part that may surprise you. For much of American history, abortion was not central to politics, even for evangelical Christians, like it is today. In fact, many evangelical leaders in the early 1970s expressed more varied or even moderate views about abortion. It's between the person and their doctor, and not anyone else's business. So what changed? Political strategists recognized something important. If you could connect deeply personal, emotional issues like abortion and LGBTQ plus rights to religious identity, you could mobilize voters not just with policy, but with fear and passion. So they got together, had this marriage of the moral majority, and said, how can we get more people on our side? We've got to get it with emotion and fear. This was not about belief. It was about building a voting bloc. Falwell's organization, the Moral Majority, helped galvanize this movement, linking religious conviction with political power in a new and highly coordinated and successful way. Abortion became framed not just as a moral issue, but as a defining line of identity. And soon after, the LGBTQ plus community, people were folded into that same framework, not as neighbors, not as fellow citizens, but as symbols in a broader cultural battle. That framing was really, really powerful, because when political issues become tied to eternal stakes, to words like salvation, hell, and sin, and righteousness, people felt like they had to go along and compromise their beliefs. Otherwise, they would betray their home community. Nuance feels like weakness, but not here. And disagreement feels like threats, but not here. That alliance in the 80s, in those early 80s, reshaped American politics. It helped elect President Reagan. It solidified a long-term relationship between segments of Christianity and one political party. And it laid the groundwork for what we now call, I'm going to call it white nationalism. Because there's nothing Christian about it. Or at least there's nothing Jesus-y about it. That's an adjective. So when we look at today at the intensity, the fear, the urgency around these issues, we're not just looking at spontaneous moral concern. We are looking at the legacy of strategy. Why are we bringing this up? Why are we talking about Jesus in a UU church so much? Because it is being forced on people in the Pentagon. It is defining the lines of two different groups of people. It is shaping our military and telling some of them that they are bringing about the end times. This is affecting all of us. So we are looking at the strategy, a strategy that fused faith with political identity, a way that made groups, women and LGBTQ plus people at the emotional center of that fusion. And once that fusion takes hold, it becomes very difficult to separate what is truly theological and what is deeply political. And underneath all this is an older idea. It's a word I wasn't familiar with until I read a couple of articles about it this week. Have you heard the word Christendom? Christendom doesn't just mean Christianity as a personal faith. It means something so much bigger and political. It's the belief that a nation should be explicitly Christian, that its laws should reflect Christian doctrine, that its identity should be rooted in a shared religious framework. In other words, not just people of faith living a democracy, but a society structured as a Christian project. And that has a long history. For centuries in Europe, church and state were intertwined. Kings ruled with religious authority. Dissent was not just a disagreement, it was heresy. The founders of this country knew that history, and they deliberately rejected it. But in recent decades, we've seen a renewed interest in something like Christendom. Not always by name, but in spirit. And this isn't only an American story. Around the world, we are seeing what it looks like when that fusion of religion and state goes even further. Why was our vice president in Hungary? Today is one of the most consequential elections in the current status of Europe and Christianity and Christendom. The current president, Viktor Orban, wants Christendom. Our vice president has made that clear, and our current administration is spending money because of that. There is an explicit vision of Christian nation where national identity, political power, and specific forms of Christianity are tightly aligned. Watch this election. They are voting right now. Why is this important? Budapest, one of the central cities of Unitarian Universalism. It is one of the birthplaces of Unitarianism, a tradition rooted in freedom of consciousness and conscience and questioning. and resisting imposed belief. So when we hear about rebuilding a Christian nation in that same place, we are reminded even sacred ground is not immune when religion and state become one, and that's what the goal is. It doesn't just shape belief, it defines belonging, and once belonging is defined that way, everyone else is left out. The Constitution contains no reference to Christianity. It explicitly forbids religious tests for public office, and in 1797, the Senate unanimously ratified the Treaty of Tripoli, which stated plainly that the government of the United States is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion. Many founders were culturally Christian, and some were devout. Others were deists, others were atheists. Some had their own Bibles, we know. But they agreed on one thing: state-sponsored religion leads to conflict, sectarian conflict. They had watched Europe tear itself apart over it. So they built something radical, something for everyone, something we celebrate in here. A secular government that protects religion by refusing to establish one. That refusal is not anti-religious, it is protective, and concrete history shows us why. Stay with me. No, this is a little longer today. Consider Engel versus Vitale. 1962, the Supreme Court struck down a state-composed prayer in public schools because when the state writes prayers, it decides what kind of prayer counts, and someone's theology is always excluded. Oberfell and Hodges, something that affected me and many of my LGBTQ plus siblings. 2015, the court recognized same-sex couples' constitutional right to marry. The religious communities remain free to define marriage according to their beliefs. The state affirmed that civil marriage is legal, not sacramental, and that distinction matters. Fugelsang, going back, insists that Jesus' ministry suggests freedom from government interference, not freedom to oppose beliefs on others. He invited, he persuaded, he told stories. He didn't draft legislation. Fugelsang says, if you don't like gay marriage, don't have one. I need an amen out of that one. Thank you. It is funny because it's true. So where does that leave us? Not with the question of whether religion belongs in public life. It already does. The question is whether government should privilege one theological narrative over others. The founder said no, the Constitution said no, and communities like this one depend on that no. Keep religion out of the state and keep the state out of here. Because here in this sanctuary, we all gather. Diversity is our strength. And we're working on it when it comes to other forms of diversity. And if this nation were declared officially Christian, which Christianity would it be? The moment the state answers that, the rest of us are left out. And that is why separation of church and state is not hostility toward religion. It is hospitality toward our neighbors. And if you know the New Testament, that sounds a lot like love your neighbor. This is where we have to be really clear because the gospel's not vague. Jesus stood with those pushed to the margins, those excluded from power, with those told they didn't belong. If we are going to invoke that tradition in public life, then we cannot ignore the truth. Because today, the people most often targeted in the name of religion are not the powerful. They are our trans siblings. They are immigrants. They are the poor. They are the vulnerable. They are the marginalized. And so we have to ask, when religion is used to exclude, when it is used to deny dignity, when it is used to create fear, is that a faith? Or is that power wearing a language of faith? Separation of church and state is not just a constitutional principle, it is a moral safeguard. It protects the freedom of the church from becoming a tool of the state. As Unitarian Universalists, we are not neutral in this moment. We are called to defend the inherent worth and dignity of every person, to stand with those who are targeted, called to speak when silence would be easier, called to build a community where love is not just spoken, but practiced. Not a faith that excludes, but welcomes. Because if we believe anything across all our traditions, it is this: that love is bigger than fear. Dignity is not conditional, and no one is outside this circle. So let us go from this place not just informed, but committed to protecting freedom, to expanding belonging, to choosing love again and again over fear. And I invite you to pick up a copy of Separation of Church and Hate. It will feed your soul, no matter your faith, to stand in this moment and make the right decisions in choosing love over fear. May it be so.
Thank you, Reverend Rob. That was At UUCF, we embrace the possibility of a world filled with peace, acceptance, justice, love, and joy. By our financial commitment, we help this congregation make those possibilities real in a challenging world. A basket is being brought around the sanctuary, and there are payment options on the screens. Whatever you are able to give is received with gratitude. We thank you for your commitment and your generosity.
Thank you, MK, and thank you for filling in for Christine this week. As we leave this place, may we carry with us a faith wide enough for questions, a courage steady enough for justice, and a humor gentle enough to soften fear. May we honor the freedom of every conscience, defend the dignity of every neighbor, and build communities where difference is not merely tolerated. We don't just tolerate. We tolerate mosquitoes in June. we cherish, and we love. Go in curiosity. Go in compassion. Go with stubborn love. Go in peace. We now invite Jocelyn to extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts wherever we may go. And so we say together, Amen, Shalom, Salam, Namaste, and blessed be. We invite you after our final hymn to join us for social hour in the Chapman Lounge. Please rise in mind, body, or spirit.